Okay, so I've been talking a lot about building your confidence, right? Building your self-confidence in many areas, and in general, just building your confidence, right? Especially, let's say, in relationships. You might have identified that you may lack confidence either with men or with women. Or maybe you don't lack the confidence in talking to women, like going up and meeting women. Maybe you don't lack the confidence in taking a woman out, or or going out dating or whatever. But maybe you lack confidence when it comes to actually maintaining a long-standing relationship. Maybe you lack confidence in your ability to be able to be faithful. Maybe you lack confidence in your ability to be able to make the woman happy. That woman, whoever. Maybe you just lack confidence in general because you lack knowledge. Okay? For many different things, right? You might lack confidence in general. You might lack confidence just in your overall ability to, and I say make a woman happy, but also make a man happy. I mean, I always picture that I'm talking to my boys. So this is why I always say a man, okay? A woman. This is why I'm always saying, like, I'm always picturing, like, if my son is asking me, Mom, I don't know how to make her happy, or something like that, right? Anyway, so I want to continue that just a little bit further, right? Specifically, I want to talk about just giving it a little bit of thought as to what does it actually take to maintain a long-lasting relationship, a successful one. I mean, not one that you don't want to be in, not one that you're like not looking forward to coming home, not one that you are forced into, not one that is a nail-biting situation or walking on eggshells kind of situation, okay? I'm talking about one that you actually want to be in, and that both people want to actually be present in and actually come to see each other. Okay, and if you actually just give it some food for thought or some meditation, right? The first thing, in my opinion, is that two people should actually have the goal of staying together. Like, two people both have to actually want and have a desire to see each other's faces, right? And to be in the relationship. Okay, and so if there is a mutual desire, first of all, there's a mutual desire to actually show up every day, right? And actually obtain that other person's energy, right? And I say two people because, it happens where you're in a relationship, right? And one person is anxious to wake up and see you, or come home and see you, or one person wants that person's energy all the time, and the other person in their mind is kind of like running from them in their mind, or they're counting down, or they're thinking to themselves like, oh God, I'm trying to see them as little as possible each day. Okay. And so in that case, that's two people who don't actually agree, and that's two people whose energy actually are repelling each other, or it's just not, what do you call that, requited love? Like, it's not equal. There's not an equal excitement to interchange. Okay, now that could be for various reasons. A lot of times I've heard men say, like, I can't make that woman happy. Nobody can make that woman happy. That woman is always unhappy, right? I've heard men say that. And they have experienced that. Like, that's something, like, and to be honest, I have literally seen what those men were talking about. I mean, I have literally seen women who were very difficult to please. They were always unhappy, or they came across that way, or their baseline attitude, or their baseline energy level was one of discontentment or attitude or aggravation. They were always in a constant state of like, oh, what do you want? You know what I'm saying? So like, I could see why a man would say that, especially about a woman like that. They might feel like there's no way they can be a winner chicken dinner, right? Like they just can't win with her, right? And really when there is a baseline negative kind of attitude where really essentially that person isn't happy with themselves or something about their life or whatever, and it's just projected all over the place to whoever is around, right? Anybody is going to feel that way. That kind of a person is literally going to probably spread that attitude or spread that feeling amongst other family members, maybe workmates, other people, right? Are going to feel that way. So in one sense, you would lose confidence in making that woman happy or making women happy in general. You might think, well, I'm not cut out to be married, or I'm not cut out to be in a long-term relationship. I can't make anybody happy. Okay. And so for many years, I remember I told my son, not that he really listened to me, but I did tell him this, I promise you. For many years, I used to say to him, I don't want you out there dating nobody. Don't even think you can go out there and date somebody and get married or whatever. You need to like take me on a date, and I'm going to grade you and let you know how you do. Okay. And when you pass and you are actually ready, then you'll be ready. I'll let you know. Like if anybody should, reap the benefits of, you taking somebody out on a date or whatever, it should be your mother first, because I had to shut down 2.5 years of my life to nurse you, and I had to birth you, and I had to gain all this extra roles or whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the sacrifice that women have to do to have children, right? And he used to laugh at me all the time. I used to be like, I'm serious, man. I'm serious. Now, of course, that's not what happened. But in any case, I used to say that for a reason to him, because I used to say, well, when you can make me happy, or when I feel satisfied with how you treat me on a date or whatever, then that's going to bring you confidence that you'll be able to do that for another woman, right? That was the base of what I was trying to imply to him, or trying to get him to understand, right? That it may take practice. Let's say you take somebody out on a date and you don't ever hear from her again, and you might wonder like, wow, did she like me or not, or did I do something wrong on the date? And it's like, okay, so then you might decide to think about or look up or research or whatever how to take a woman out on a date or whatever. And you might read, open the door for her, or you might read something like, offer to pay for her meal, or pull her chair out, or like basically how to be a gentleman, right? You might actually read some of these things, and bring her flowers or whatever, right? Whatever little things that you read, okay? And you might decide on the next date, I'm going to implement some of those things, and see how I do or whatever. And maybe you do better. Maybe you get a better response, a better feedback, and maybe you feel like you have more confidence now, right? Because you're like, oh, this woman, when I opened the door for her, she gave me a big smile, and that was my cue that she likes when I open the door for her, right? Okay, I say that to say, every man that I have met, and most men that I know, according to everything I have read as well, including even my father, basically have told me and have all said the same basic thing. Men are always looking for cues as to how to treat you, right? Or men are always looking for cues that what they're doing or saying or providing or how they're showing up is actually making you happy. And women who know how to express, and women who know how to show that happiness, and women who are not afraid to be vulnerable, if you want to say, and actually give that man, confidences and give him that cue, or, give him that, like rah rah Hercules, okay, like in the movie, rah rah, like Hercules, okay, that right there, like remember that in the movie with what's his name, that movie, Dr. Dolittle, right? It was like rah rah Hercules, right, like to give him that boost of confidence, right? So for example, let's say a man buys you flowers and you love roses, but he buys you carnations and you hate carnations or something like that. When he buys you the flowers and you look at it like, he's taking that as a cue, like, she don't like flowers, or she don't like carnations or something, right? Or if when he buys you roses or whatever, and then you have a big smile on your face and you're like, oh my God, thank you. And he sees that your reaction, right? It's like, oh, I need to repeat this because she liked it. So here's the other thing. Boys start this, and I read this in a book. Boys actually start this process when they are born. Okay, so I remember reading where it said that boys in particular, the first woman that they fall in love with is their mother. Okay, now it's because when the baby is born, or whoever their parental figure is that's taking care of them, right? But as they're babies, right, and they're looking up and they're looking at their mom, they are seeing the woman who is providing everything for them. And likely she's probably, looking back and cooing and smiling and everything. And he is in love with this woman, right? And that mother is either giving him positive feedback and cues or not. Now, as a baby, typically, I would say most moms are, nurturing or whatever, right? But as that child grows up and they get to be 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, and as they get older and they do things around the house, or they, different things, they make a mess, or, just as the child is growing up and they are making mistakes or misbehaving or whatever, right? And the mom is disappointed a lot in that child, or expresses their disappointment, or is always giving that child or that baby boy the stink face or the you're gonna get it, I'm not happy with you face, right? And if he starts to feel like, I can never get my mother's approval or whatever, right, it'll start to chip away at his confidence, his self-confidence, right? And then, like, and let me explain what I mean. Like, have you ever noticed, for example, let's say you have a child, you have a child, one of your children, they refuse to potty train, or you can't seem to potty train them. They're at that age or whatever, and you're trying to get them to potty train. They won't listen to you. You can't seem to get it done or whatever. Then you take them over to a friend's house. They're there one day, and it's like, boom, they're potty training. They're sitting on the toilet, right? It's like all of a sudden he knew what to do. That child is like doing it, right? And you might ask yourself, like, why? Sometimes it is true. Kids do tend to listen to other people easier, right? But sometimes it's the approach. I experienced this with my youngest son, right? I tried to teach him how to tie his shoelaces forever. Not just me. It was me and my husband, right, before he had passed. Everybody in the family tried. We kept trying in the family. In the family, we kept trying, like, hey, like, tie your shoes, whatever. And he got to be, like, going into 6th grade, I think it was. Well, no, it was before that. It was actually before. It was, like, 5th grade. I don't remember, but it was right around that time. Anyway, he got to be so old. I just gave up on it finally. I was just like, okay, that boy is lazy. I don't know. He don't want to do it. I don't know. I gave up on it, right? My second husband, when I got remarried, though, this is when we were dating, he come up to visit me. And I was telling him I couldn't get him to tie his shoelaces. And I just gave up on it. It was like a lost cause or something. I don't know. And my second husband was like, oh, really? And he said, I bet you I can get him to do it. And I was like, okay, Man, I remember coming in the room or whatever, and next thing I saw Boston like tying his shoes. He had his shoes tied. And I was like, he tied his shoes, and not only did he tie his shoes once, but he did it a couple times. And I said, how in the world did you get him to tie his shoes? How did you teach him to do, like, how did you do that? And Boston pulled out the money. He goes, oh, I paid him. I put a $20 bill in front of him, and I think he did a couple 20s. I don't even know exactly how much, but he's like, if you tie your shoes, I'm gonna give you this. Boom, the motivation right there. All of a sudden, he could tie his shoes. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know why I didn't think about that. I don't know why I didn't think about that. But anyway, he did, right? And boom, he tied his shoes. He learned how to do it. And from that point on, he'd been tying his shoes, right? And I realized, like, that's another example of, basically, it's like you have to find that sweet spot in relationships. You have to find that sweet spot for each other, right? In that motivation. What actually motivates your mate? What motivates that other person, right? So, for example, I'm going to use me as an example. Let's say I'm in a relationship with you, whatever, we're together, and you want to make me happy, and, I tell you I like green tea, right? And you decide to keep coming home with Sprite. Okay, I'm giving like a very generic kind of silly example, right? And I'm like, I didn't ask for Sprite. Sprite doesn't have any caffeine. I don't drink Sprite. I don't drink soda. I don't want that. No, thank you. And you see the look on my face, right? So the next day you decide, oh, okay, she likes green tea, but let me bring Coke. And again, I'm like, well, I don't drink soda. I don't want Coke. I don't want Coca-Cola. Okay, that's not what I don't like that. I don't want it. And then you're like, oh, man, and then let's say the next day, again, you decide to bring orange juice. And I'm like, okay, again, I like green tea. I like my green tea. I don't need to drink orange juice. It hurts my stomach if it's too much acid or whatever, yada, yada, yada. And you might think to yourself, oh my God, I give up. I can't make that woman happy. And I'm over here thinking like, but you're not listening. Like, you're not listening to what I'm saying. Like, I was, very clear in what I said. Now, most women actually are not like me. They're not as clear and as outspoken and as verbal as I am, right? But in general, in relationships, right, you can pick up on those cues. Babies do it. Children do it. They can see their parents. When their parents light up and they're happy and they got their parents' approval, right? And especially young boys, when they fall in love with their mothers, and then eventually, like, they'll fall in love with somebody else. And usually, not always, but usually the example that they had, or who, like, of their mother, is something typical or similar is what they'll end up with, right? But so that dynamic, right? You got to think about that dynamic, right? And if you were never ever able to make your mother happy for whatever reason, she never gave you commendation, or she never gave you the accolades, or she never, helped you to build your confidence in your ability to accomplish tasks or to do a job well done, right? And for whatever reason, she didn't motivate you enough to repeat whatever, like, let's say you were successful at something and you weren't able to, but she didn't motivate you enough to repeat that over and over and over again, right? Whatever that dynamic looked like is very similar to something that you might end up with later on in relationships, right? So it's very important that mothers, mothers, that we learn how to edify and build up and speak life into our husbands, our sons, our mates, so that they can feel a sense of accomplishment, right? And that they can feel successful. So let's say, I'm going to give you that example again. Let's say, you keep bringing orange juice, soda, and everything but what I asked for, right? Now, in that moment, you have the opportunity to either berate that person or use it as an opportunity to grow and come together closer, right? Or to help the relationship gain some trust. So what I mean is this: I could literally say, I don't want orange juice. I hate that. Or I don't want soda. I asked you not to give me no soda. I hate soda. What is wrong with you? Are you stupid? You can't hear me? You're not listening to what I'm telling you? Oh my God, what is wrong with you? Like, you must be dumb. Or whatever. Like, whatever you say, right? Whatever attitude-y thing that comes out, right? Annoying thing or whatever. Or you could respond to like, I don't like that. That's not what I said, but I really appreciate that you actually put forth effort to go and get me something, because that was really sweet of you. Because just the fact that you even thought of me at all makes me feel good. But save the receipt, because we're going to return that because I want some green tea. Okay, so there's a difference, right? And you can also be like, okay, and give me a kiss, right? And you give him a kiss, and it's like, I love you anyway. You know, like, I love you, don't worry about it, I love you. And you can still, so basically, the technique that I'm speaking of, what I learned many years ago at Mary Kay, was that it's like, when you have to kind of like, you know, maybe say, I don't want to say something negative, but when you have to give maybe negative feedback, or it's not super positive feedback, or you have to give back some sort of opportunity for growth with somebody, right? You need to sandwich it between two compliments. You have to sandwich it between two compliments, right? And so what that means is, you know, you say, oh, you bought something for me. Thank you. Oh my God. You actually thought about me. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I don't like Sprite. And even though I don't want this Sprite, because that's not what I asked for. Okay. I love you so much for thinking about me. And I appreciate you. Thank you for still thinking about me. I appreciate it. That means a lot. Or whatever. Okay. So, you know, so you sandwich it between two good things, right? You say the negative thing in here, and you sandwich it between two good things. And you might even want to say something to the effect of like, you know what, next time though, I you know, if you did this or this or this, I would be like super happy if the next time we went here, or the next time we did that, or did this, or whatever it is you're talking about, the next time, and you give like something that could be done that would make you very happy. And you could say, that would make my heart happy. You know, you could say something like that, like, that would make me happy. Or when he does do something to make you happy, when that man does do something to make you happy, like, oh my God, thank you for getting my AC fixed in my car. I appreciate you. I didn't know how I was going to get that fixed, and you basically saved my life. And I thank you so much for that, right? It's like, you want to make sure you're giving positive affirmation to that person when they do something right. Because especially men are always looking for that confirmation, either that look in your eyes, or that response, or that happiness or joy, or something that they bring you. Okay? And you need to affirm them. All right? Because men are different from us, number one, but also women are different from men, right? And so it's like, sometimes there could be a, you know, communication issue, right, with what you really want, right, or what you know, maybe what you said versus what they did, or whatever, right? And so the smart woman, the smart, wise woman, like the Bible says, will edify and build up her family, and will look for ways to reaffirm her son or her husband, or the men in her family, men around her, or whatever. Like, thank you for doing that for me. I appreciate you taking the lead in that. Thank you for doing this, or whatever. Thank you for doing that, or, you know, thank you for praying with me. Whatever, right? Because that's going to, most men are looking for that cue so they can recreate it over and over and over again, right? So it's like, if they see that it makes you really happy when you go on walks together, when you go and take a walk together, right? Then they know they can put that in their mind or in their list, right? Okay, she likes when we go on walks together. She likes when I bring home green tea. She likes fresh flowers. She likes when I pray with her. She likes when I read the Bible to her. She likes when I run her bath water. You know, she likes when we just spend time together, even if we're really not doing anything, but we're just driving, you know, running errands or whatever together. You know, she likes to go to the beach. She likes to get her toes done. I'm checking all my stuff around me. Anyway, you know, or she likes when I, you know, keep her car clean or put gas in her car. Whatever you notice. Now, I was just naming things that I like because actually, that was actually my late husband, the one that passed away. Those were the things that I asked him to do for me. And even my second husband, he would read to me at night too. I actually enjoy being read to, especially, I mean, you don't have to be the Bible, but I just enjoy it because it lulls me to sleep. You know why? Because when I was raised with my grandparents for the first few years of my life, and I used to sleep in the bed with my grandparents, in between my grandma and my grandpa, and they would read my book of Bible stories to me And both of them would read it, but grandpa typically read most of the time and would say the prayer and everything, right? So that was like the foundation that I had for like the first 5 years of my life. And that's how I fell asleep. And it really helped me to wind down or whatever. And it's like sometimes those things that you did in your formative years, they just kind of stick with you. And so, yeah, when I'm read to, and I know that sounds like so silly, right? But for me, not only is it comforting and it helps me wind down or go to sleep or whatever, but it's also, to me, I feel loved. I feel very loved because I felt loved with my grandparents and my mother. We were all in the house together. But I felt very loved with that, in that scenario and that feeling, right? So I associate that to a feeling of love, right? And that is a simple thing. It costs nothing. It literally costs nothing. And especially if you like that person's voice, like, especially if you like that person's voice, right? Like I always say, my dad had a really soothing voice as well. My dad's voice was very calming. Certain voices are just that way for me. There's one guy I dated, he had an amazing radio voice, if you want to say. I think it was like I call it a radio voice, a singing voice. And I liked the way he talked, and I could easily fall asleep if he was to read to me. That's the kind of voice that I would like to listen to, right? Like, certain things. Now, if a person has an annoying voice, or aggravating, or they remind you of somebody you don't like or something like that, then you wouldn't want them to read you, right? Anyway, I got sidetracked, but the point is that I'm just saying, like, so whatever it is that person, that female likes, or that man, also it's the same thing for women who, when you're married and you're trying to make sure that man is happy. But I've talked about that on several other videos about just things in general that men like to, or what they want in a woman or whatever. And men are usually very simple. Men are usually simple. They're like 2, 3, or 4 things or whatever that they're main thing or whatever, and you just got to make sure you stay within that. Men are usually more on the simpler side, and I happen to be one of those chicks. Believe it or not, I have been told that I am very easy to please. Actually, I've been told that, and I know that may sound crazy because I am very talkative and I'm very detailed, and but it's all on how you look at it, right? Because the reason I say that, I've had some men who said that, and I've had some men who said the opposite, right? But the men who have actually said that I was easy to please and that they found me easy to please, they were doing the most simplest things. So, like, for example, to give you an example, my first husband, he carved our names in a tree. And I remember that never left me. And I praised him for that for years and years and years, how romantic that was, right? I just loved it. But it literally was the simplest thing, and it costed nothing. And like I say, so it's kind of like, but if you're over here trying to impress me with, material things, diamonds and this and that and the other, but you can't talk to me lovingly, okay? It's like don't try to impress me with, earrings or expensive things, but you can't keep your voice from screaming or yelling and talking to me in a toxic way. And when I don't respond to that. I don't respond to that. I just, that, and so it might seem like, oh, she's not easy to please because look, this woman is never happy. She's always running away. And it might be because to that man, it's like, I just paid this, bill, or I just bought this for you, or I just did this for you, or whatever, or I just bought you green tea, but I called you Satan devil when we get in an argument, or every time I yell at the top of my voice, or every time I talk to you, or I'm micromanaging you, or I'm always getting mad at you because you've taken too long at that lady's house to do her makeup, and I wanted you in the house before 10 o'clock, or I don't like the fact that, dinner was cooked in a crock pot, and I'm going to micromanage you and try to make you not, or whatever, and come down on you. Instead of, okay, so it's kind of like, to some men, right, it's like they're not taking the cues. Okay, so let's say you talk to, I'm just going to use me as an example. You talk to me in a crazy way, like you raise your voice at me or something real bad, right? Real bad. Okay. And you see my face go like this. Okay. If you take the cue, you're going to know, I'm offending her. Anybody. Really. That's the cue. Oh, they're feeling offended right now. let me tone it down, right? Okay, that's a nonverbal cue that she doesn't like that, right? Now, it's like you could have just given me, diamond earrings, but you are yelling at me or talking to me some kind of way as soon as you look over here and you don't like, in your opinion, you think the refrigerator is not full of groceries enough, right? Or something, depending on whatever, right? And it's like, what? And now I'm like, take your earrings or take your diamonds back or take whatever you just gave me back because you're talking to me crazy. You're finding any little thing to nitpick and talk crazy to me, right? It's undermining maybe what you think you're doing. And also because in your mind, your love language might be buying something or doing something or paying a bill, and you might be thinking that is showing me love, when I'm over here like the simplest thing, like talking nice, reading at night, going for walks, just doing simple things of life together, actually make me happy, right? But you're not taking the simple cues. You're not taking the cues, right? And so it could be a to and a fro thing, right? It's like the women have to, as women, we have to be okay with expressing our gratitude, our thankfulness, our happiness when our partners do something that we like. And we have to be able to give positive feedback and affirm them and thank them and be happy and show that in our demeanor and in our face so they can repeat it. Rinse and repeat, right? That's how I feel. Rinse and repeat. Do that again. Okay? Because that made me happy. Okay? Also, when we have to maybe say something or whatever, we have to think about how we're saying it to them so we don't crush our man's spirit or our son. So we don't crush their spirit and it makes them feel like they can't ever get anything right and they just give up and lose confidence, right? Okay, so there's that. And then there's on his end, the man's end, or your son or whoever, right? On his end, it is important that he not miscues and try to force, like, in a way, his own love language on you. So, for example, if I'm telling you, like, I like going for simple walks or going to the water and being calm, right? And just simple things like that. But you're over here trying to buy me things or do all kinds of things for me or use paying bills or use money or diamonds or a big house or something to use that as your love language and as your flag for success, like, okay, you should just be happy because XYZ, and it's all these monetary things that actually don't speak love to that woman that you are in a relationship with, right? It's like you're missing the cues, right? Because I look at, so, everybody is different. Everybody is different with what they look at as what is rich and what they think is success in life. Like, what I think is successful and what I think makes me feel rich is completely different than probably the next person, the next woman, and probably different from what most people think is rich. Why? Because I've had different experiences in life that have caused me to have a different outlook. I have a much different outlook. I'm going to tell you right now, the thing that makes me feel the most rich is when I'm with somebody is time. Having time with them. Basically, like, if I'm with somebody that I really love and I care, and already quality time is already my love language. But because I know that life is short and I know that life is not guaranteed, tomorrow's not guaranteed, and everybody has a birth date and everybody has an expiration date. And so I know that, right? So to me, I value the most spending quality time, making happy, good, joyful memories, warm memories. So whether it be just reading a book together, being calm at the water, going to the beach, or taking walks, or just coming home and not arguing, not nitpicking at each other, not using your antennas to look through the house to see every little thing that is not done, like every little thing that is like out of place, or crumbs everywhere or whatever, you know, like not looking for all these things, right? Okay, so, you know, I value making good memories, having warm, cozy, fuzzy feelings. Why do I value that? Because I know that that's what you're left with. That's all you have. When somebody exits your life, whether it be through death or through another reason or for some other reason, what you are left when that person leaves is the memories. And if you have good memories, right, then you have happy, warm memories, and that's a warmth in your heart. That's something that's golden. That's golden. If a person leaves your life and you really didn't have the best memories with them, and you didn't have the warmest feelings with them, like, you actually might be happy that you have your freedom from that person. Okay, so it's like, for example, I had a friend who lost her husband. She was older than me, but I lost my husband first many years before, but then eventually she lost her husband too. And she felt like she just got her freedom papers because they didn't have a lot of warm, fuzzy feelings between the two of them. And she was always at her wit's end with him. Excuse me. Oh my God, the allergies. I gotta take another allergy pill. Hold on, I gotta take an allergy pill. I'm telling you guys, this saves my life. This is that time of year. It's just like, whew, I suffer the most. I'd be so glad when allergy season is over. I mean, you can hear it in my voice and everything. I'm just like, anyway, I had a friend who, we both lost our husbands, but like for me, I mean, you know, years and years and years later, you know, I was still sad or whatever. And I definitely didn't feel like I got my walking papers or my freedom papers, right? And I had warm, for the most part, warm, wonderful memories with my first husband, but with her, the only thing she was really happy that she had kids. I mean, she loved her kids. But for her, she was like, I can't wait to actually date somebody and really be with, you know, and she felt like she had just got her freedom papers and was just like a free slave or something, you know, like she was a free woman, you know, like she had been emancipated or something, you know. And it was a totally different response, a totally different reaction to the same experience, right? But that is what you're left with eventually. Like, that's what you're left with in life. It's like you literally leave this world the same way you came in, with nothing. Physically, you can't take anything with you, right? So the people who are left, they're either going to be left with good, warm thoughts of you and all the love that you put into them, and the time, the effort, the energy, the prayers, the hard work, the dinners, whatever you did, right? Whatever love you put into them, or whatever you did do, good or bad. If you left good memories and good impressions, that's what that person is going to be left with. Even if you don't pass away or whatever, but like you just decide to split up or go your separate ways or whatever, right? You're left with, that person is left with that memory of you, of however you showed up in a relationship. And so it's like, to me, what makes me feel rich is having somebody who values the same things that I do and values those small things in life that really mean so much, that can actually bring you warmth in your heart and joy in your heart and joy in your life, and just that warm feeling of being in somebody's arms at night, you know, like cozy and together and warm and safe, right? And that is what makes me feel rich. That's what makes me feel rich. I don't having an overflow of love in your life, whether it be from family or children, or, you know, hugs and kisses, or your significant other, or just in general, genuine love. And I don't mean forced love, and I don't mean fake love either. Not fake love, not forced love, and not somebody who's doing it because they're just trying to get something from you or whatever. No, just that real genuine, like, I would say nakedness. I don't mean nakedness. I mean that, what am I trying to say? Like, purity. Purity is what I'm trying to say. Purity. The purity of just two souls who actually want to be near each other. Just two souls who actually enjoy each other's company. That's what I'm talking about. Okay? And so, anyway, it's like, take the cues. If it's kind of like when you're, when, let's say you have a son who, he's like, Mommy, I'm bringing you these flowers, right? And he wants to give you flowers because he loves you, right? A little boy. But what did he do? He picked up all the flowers from your garden that you just planted, right? You just planted all these flowers, and you're like, right? It's like, how do you respond? Right? And so sometimes as a mother, as a wife, we have to be like, oh, thank you. And you have to what? Appreciate the effort, appreciate the thought, right? But it's like later on at a different time where we're not going to take away from the moment. You might say, hey, son, these flowers over here I planted, and Mommy wants them to stay in the garden. If you want to pick Mommy's flowers, next time go over there, this side of the house or whatever, right? But you would do it at like at a different time, right? Why? Because you don't want to kill your child's spirit, right? You don't want to break your child's spirit, or your husband for that matter, and also your wife for that matter. If you're a man, also your wife. But doing as people give you back responses or cues, right? As you see these cues, or you take these little responses and things as cues, right? You can start to build confidence. Like, oh, she liked when I did that. Oh, she liked when I did that. Oh, he liked when I did that. Oh, he likes when I make this. Like, this is his favorite meal. Oh, he loves pizza. Oh, this guy loves chicken and rice and potatoes, or whatever, right? And you take cues like, okay, I'm gonna make that again. I had a relationship that he loved, I called them breakfast cookies. They were power packed cookies that were like, I used to make them actually for my first husband initially. The first time is because he wanted to gain weight, and they were like fulfilled with everything from oatmeal, and not just oatmeal raisins or whatever, but like protein in them, and cranberries, and like nuts and chocolate chips, and just everything. I don't know, I put a lot of stuff in it, right? But like with the next relationship, like, it was like, okay, he liked these cookies too. They were his favorite cookies too, but he didn't want the nuts, or he didn't want certain things, right? Because either he didn't like them or whatever reason, right? So I made it the way he liked it, right? So I could catch that cue, like he said, okay, whatever, and I adjusted, right? But I made it for him because it was something that he liked. It was a simple thing that I could do, he liked these, I call them breakfast cookies because they are a meal replacement. They're a true meal replacement because of the content and everything. It was like, everybody told me when they ate the cookies, they were like, oh my God, that cookie made me so full. And it was because it was so power packed of macronutrients, right? Anyway, and so it's like little things like that give people like that you can do when you know that that person really likes this or that or whatever, and it kind of like makes you feel rich, right? For me, it's like I said, time. I enjoy the gift of time, quality time, of doing leisurely things, walks and nature walks and things like that. Like, just things like that. Like, that's the type of woman I am. Because time to me is something that you can't get back. You can't get back time. So it's like, if you want to waste time and you always want to be, working 24/7 and never make time for me, right? Then for me, I'm not going to feel very much loved. All right. You could buy a diamond, you can buy me a big old house, but I don't want to be sitting in that house empty, alone. And I also don't want to be sitting around waiting, to create memories that never get to happen. Why? Because you don't value the gift of time. Like, if you know and you really experience that shock value, and it is a shock value, if you've ever experienced that, of somebody passing away suddenly. And when I mean suddenly, I don't mean like in their 90s, 80s or 90s, or, you know, elderly, and you know that they are approaching that end of life stage, you know, and you have started to make peace or make amends with grandma, grandpa, or whoever, right? Parents or whatever. Or if somebody is sick, terminally sick, and they have, you know, whatever, and you start the process of saying goodbye, right? That is a gift if you get to do that. That is a gift. Because when you don't get that, and it's somebody that you really love, and you have to experience that shock value of that person being gone, you never get to see them again. You don't think to yourself, I wish I had bought them this, that, the other, or I wish I had, you know, more money in the bank, or this or that and the other. That's not to say if you lose somebody like me with little kids and everything that you don't wish you had life insurance, because of course you do. But what I'm saying is in general, you're not thinking about that. You're thinking about the time that you have lost, the time that you thought you had to do XYZ, and you're thinking about the time that you lost, or you're not going to get, or the time that you wasted. For example, I'm going to give you another example. I know for me, when I first came home from the hospital after my husband passed away, and I was at the hospital all day from like 9:30 to like 6:30. You know, I was at the hospital like the whole day. People were coming, and friends and family, people were coming and all that. Okay. And then when I got home, I remember seeing my husband's shoes and the duffel bag and just his socks and his cup, his mess basically everywhere throughout the house. Because I used to always say I could see everywhere he walks in the house, because I could always see his trail. And I used to always complain. I used to be like, get your shoes, I'm tripping over this, I'm trying to pick this up. I used to be very, very, you know, I was like more nitpicky on that kind of stuff, right? And then even in upstairs in my bathroom, I remember seeing the shavings in the sink from him shaving. And I remember when I got home, it was such a shock. I was in such a shock. I was in shock. I was in shock. But I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm never gonna have the opportunity to complain about his shoes, him leaving his mess everywhere. I'm not gonna be able to complain about this, that, and the other ever again. I'm never going to complain about this ever again. Like that was the end of that. That was never going to happen again. And then I remember thinking, like, I wasted so much time every day or every other day or whatever, saying like, pick up this, pick up that. I was like, wow, I wasted so much time caring about his shoes in the way. Like, if I'd known that I was going to have such a short period of time with him, that he was going to die at such a young age, I would not have wasted it on, you know, trivial things, right? And I vowed that I wouldn't be that anal or that OCD on things ever again, because that wasn't creating happy memories. Now, I had plenty of happy memories with him, for sure, we did. But the point is that I realized for me, like, how do I say this? For me, my priorities of life and the priorities of what are the things that make me happy and whatnot, everything got crystal clear. Like, life and what we make of it and what it is or whatever, everything got so crystal clear for me. Showing love and everything, like, I just got clear. And it did make me more sensitive in many ways. I definitely became more sensitive for it. But in general, like, I realized right away what made me feel rich and what made me feel full and very happy and satisfied with life. And it was all the simpler things that actually were not money-based or anything. They were things that, you know, was like basically how you are actually making me feel, right? And that's what always my concern is with the other person when I'm with somebody. It's like, how am I making you feel, right? Like, Are you happy? Or do you feel okay? Like, that's how I am as a person, right? Because I'm always looking for those cues, right? And so anyway, it's good to give people those cues so they can build confidence in what to do in a relationship to make you happy. Even with your sons, though, especially like with your boys, with your girls, with your children in general, with your children, let them have an opportunity to do things right. Like give them an opportunity to, when you say clean the room or whatever, and they do a good job, don't hesitate to be like, I'm proud of you. Good job. I'm proud of you. You did good. Or it's like, if you can't, like me, I can never I'm always like, I can't open this. I can't reach this. And I have very tall boys and very strong boys. And I'm always like, good. I'm so glad. This is why I had you to open this right here. This is why I had you to move this box from here to here, because I can't do it. Stuff like that. Like, it gives the other person the opportunity to rise to the occasion when you give them positive feedback in that way. And that's really for anybody, even at work. Actually, that's even true at work. Anyway, that's all for today. Bye.